yeah, right on time. I don't even want to hear any of this nonsense about we're late. We were not, absolutely not watching an episode of our new favorite show, the Run Pure Sports trademark Farmer Wants a Wife. We were not checking that out. We were not talking about Kylie or her upcoming date this weekend. We were doing none of that, you bastards. We were congratulating JSU. He gets the day off for a fantastic evening, another 100K shipper. And yes, maybe you will get the free plays today if you go ahead and smash, abuse, do whatever you need to the like button to get us to a requisite number that quite honestly makes me happy. That's what you're trying to do, is simply make me happy. You don't make me happy, a couple of things can happen. One, the worst outcome, you simply go in timeout. That's not good. But the second worst outcome is no free plays of the day. And you want the free plays of the day after a shipper, because we're all locked in. And like I said, no JSU today, no Up to Lock show, but we're here. So go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe. You know the whole thing. If you're not a member yet for some reason, there's only one code that works. Don't listen to the charlatans on Twitter who tell you to use their code, this code, that code. It's JTHayes 15. That's the only one. Sweet Travis, it looks like you're off a house arrest. You're in a different location. Let me bring you in. I mean, you said you had a surprise. Then you reneged on the surprise. You're claiming that the weather had something to do with it. And I'm just going to be honest. I'm calling bullshit. We'll let Big T decide whether or not you're being truthful or not. And to everyone watching, happy Thirsty Thursday.
Yes, happy Thirsty Thursday. Yes, JT, my plan was to have a nice little tasty beach background with an old sky throughout the show. We could have literally an hour's worth of sky video footage while doing the NBA show, but weather has gotten in the way a bit, and we won't be able to do that. Tomorrow, there is a chance of rain. It sounds like it's going to end around 1 o'clock. Hopefully, it can clear enough, and we can get a nice little tasty sky video tomorrow with me in the background. Hopefully, it's not too windy as well, because I do not have the JSU penis microphone, as Big T likes to call it, so I don't have a microphone, and I figured that's a good segue for Big T to pull it out. But hopefully, we can have a nice little sky video tomorrow. Farmer Wants a Wife. JT, no, I was not watching it last night. I happened to just be sitting on the couch. I was bored, and I said, let me just do the hashtag Farmer Wants a Wife, and see what I can find. And I found a tasty video of the unit, Kylie, getting the job done.
The unit.
So, yep, that's what we call her. She's a hashtag unit, as JT says.
I mean, she looks like a thumper. I got to be honest. I mean, she looks like an absolute thumper. When I was single, those were the types of women that maybe I would get in trouble with, because they get really handsy. They're predatory. It's unsafe sometimes for single men. Holden, by the way, it's never unsafe for him. He is saying there is an Up to Lock show. It's just on a different platform. Whatever, Holden, you know what to do. So anyway, Travis, you're rudely interrupted. Sorry. Continue on about your epic quest to find a show where it's all sky and the epic failure.
Yeah, so obviously we had to queue up find the GIF or find the video and posted it for you. So that was a lot of fun. Also, Holden did bring up a good point, which doesn't happen often. We're on a different platform tonight. We got Watch Playback, which the boys will be on. They'll be sweating the games as well, and they'll be doing the Up the Lock show with our guy JSU. So be sure to check that out. And that's not a premium thing. If you are watching as a free member right now, you can head on over and watch. All you got to do is put your TV provider in there. You got to make an account. And listen, if you do not have a TV provider, let's say you are hashtag broke, you are poor, you can watch and listen. And you also do not have to, have it. I can't even talk with Joey. Where in the chat?
It's a great photo of Joey. Obviously just got out of the sun tanning bed, and he just.
Were either one of you guys watching the other? I don't even know what show I was doing. I'm sure one of you was watching, but when he came on with three ladies.
No.
It might have been the playback. You didn't see it either, Mangone?
I heard him. I saw him say a message that he had the ladies.
So we're on I think it was the playback show. That's probably why. But he's like, we got dinner with three ladies. I don't know about you guys. So he comes on the playback, gets the camera out.
With the ladies?
He did have three ladies. They were at least two of them were very questionable. But three ladies. It was an instant classic.
All right.
Hey, listen, two of them could have been grenades, Big T. That's how it works.
I just was having flashbacks to us all eating in Kentucky, and he gave great advice. Sometimes you just keep working your way down the ladder until you hit a home run. Like it happens.
Yeah, well, he did. He did ask some very funny things at the restaurant. He also gave out some really good advice. You know, he told the people, "Hey, when you leave, you go up to every single waitress and you tell them, thanks a lot. I'll see you sooner. I'll see you next time." I forget what the exact phrase he said, but it was pretty good. And he even went up and said it to the questionable ones as well, because you just never know.
We know work likes the big girls. Oh,
I mean, listen, there is the rule of quantity over quality, where you just kind of fish and you fish in the pond and you take what you get. And there are people who do that, and I've had friends who've done that.
I slept with someone's grandmother. I didn't even see that.
Yeah. Well, listen, the winters are long in New Jersey, and sometimes you just need a little bit of comfort, a little bit of cuddling. Big T, the winters were also long in Northern Kentucky, apparently. It was absolutely freezing last weekend. We didn't get to do any outdoor activities, barely, but again, just another phenomenal party. Obviously,
I did participate in outdoor activity, and I almost got killed. So I just want to throw that out there. I mean, I got absolutely undercut on the slab, but I got the job done with the W.
It'll be your turn to talk again in a moment, Travis. But we want to. Big T, what's going on? How's your Thursday evening?
Yeah, I got JSU's mic. See if it helps me tonight. He ships last night with the penis mics. So I'm going to try to get my winners through this mic today and see if I can be successful.
All right. Well, we will take it from there. Any questions? Go ahead and pop them in the chat. It's a 4-game slate, so we got plenty of time. Dead air, 137 likes. We are going to need a lot more than that. It's going to need a lot more than that because it's Thursday, and we want the good mojo. We need you guys to smash and abuse the like button. So we'll go ahead and we'll get into this. 4 games. Most of the news available to us already, except for the fact that it is March and it is NBA, and you never know what's going to happen. The Clippers could come out with a wild starting lineup. I actually expect that might happen tonight. So definitely reasons to pay attention. But starting out the night, we will have the news. And it's big news, in my opinion, because this is a pretty big game for the Knicks, trying to maintain their spot out of the play-in and into the main playoff tournament. For the Magic, a little bit tougher here, Big T, because it seems like they're pretty much out of it. I guess mathematically they're not yet eliminated, but some of these starters have been playing big minutes. The rotations have been pretty steady. It's really going to be difficult to determine when they determine they're out of it, when they decide that that's it, because I think these minutes are going to come down, and I think it could happen with really relatively no notice. So what are you seeing here? The news here in this game is that Jalen Brunson and Mitchell Robinson are questionable. Brunson, a midday downgrade. So that obviously opens up some value on a slate without a lot of value, especially if Mitchell Robinson misses, with Isaiah Hartenstein sitting there at 3,700 on DraftKings. For Orlando, only Jalen Suggs will miss. But as I mentioned, as they tried at least to make a final push to get at least into the play-in, the rotations have condensed, but that could change. What do you got here?
Yeah, like you said, at this point of the year, what is there, about 10 or so games left? I think somewhere in that range.
Yep.
These teams are ramping up. The Knicks are in the 5 seed right now. They look pretty locked into the 5, honestly. Maybe they fall to the 6, but the Heat are right there too. So I guess theoretically they could fall out. So they need to win. Can't really move up either. So these games are big, and we already know these guys like to play minutes. The issue is, man, the prices are tough. I mean, Randall over 10K. Oh, I'm looking at FanDuel. Let me pull up DK real quick.
The DK prices, if the news breaks the right way, wouldn't be too bad. But it is a back-to-back for the Knicks. Again, that hasn't really mattered, especially this part of the season when they're trying to get wins to stay in the main playoff tournament and stay out of the play-in.
Yeah, so now that I have the correct pricing up, FanDuel, if you're playing on FanDuel, the pricing's been tougher all year. But the pricing is a little better. 9,100, 7,800 for Brunson. Like you said, if Mitch Rob somehow misses, it looks like Brunson's still questionable too, is he?
Midday downgrade for Jalen Brunson, yes.
So decent chance he sits too. So if they both sit somehow, I mean, you got some great value. I mean, Barrett at 6K, Hartenstein 3,700, Josh Hart a little questionable at 59 still, but you can play him if those guys are out. And then Grimes 3,400. He's killed us a few times in this spot, but man, if both of those guys are out, you have to at least consider him. Even Obi Toppin has got some action in this spot too with Mitch Rob out. So I agree. If they're both in, which, I mean, all these midday downgrades pretty much have been missing for the most part of the second half of the year. So I think there's a decent chance he misses, which would make these guys good plays. If they somehow play, I probably won't like all that much here outside of maybe Julius Randle at the top. But the Orlando side, like you said, I mean, technically they're not out. I think they're the worst team that's not physically eliminated yet.
Right.
So, I mean, they're teetering. They're 4.5 games out of the final spot. And like I said, there's only 10 games left. And there's 2 teams in between them and the 10 seed. So, I mean, they're going to have to run the table to have any chance. But like you said, it's more valuable to them probably just to tap out and hope they get lucky with the lottery balls. So I don't see enough. I mean, Paulo is he's going to hit a little bit of optimizers. Cole Anthony at 5,600 hits a little bit, but I'm not going to Orlando with all the unknowns. And at this point of the year, with these teams that might tap out, start to look at some of these names towards the bottom just because you don't know. I mean, Kevon Harris, Caleb Houston, Bol, Goga. I mean, all these guys towards the bottom that they're not in play right now. So make sure you understand what I'm saying. They're definitely not in play. But if you see some weird lineup come out or something, like they start a few weird guys like they're tapping out, that'll happen the next 2 weeks. It will. Make no mistake about it. So just pay attention to all the lineups with these dusty teams at this point of the year.
Kevon Harris has gotten some rotation minutes recently due to the Jalen Suggs absence, but I think you're right here. It seems like maybe another 1 or 2 games where they try and make a push here. Maybe they think they can take one from the Knicks on a back-to-back on the road. Travis, if Jalen Brunson misses, Emmanuel Quickley is going to be the highest-owned player on the slate, 5,800. He should be the highest-owned player on the slate. Big T mentioned Grimes. He shot lights out last night, 6 of 10 from 3, nearly 75% from the field, got to 34 points, back-to-back. Don't know if he'll repeat that performance, but he is cheap on a slate where we don't have a lot of value. What are you seeing here? Knicks at the Magic.
Yeah, I saw you mention Kevon Harris. I don't play him because he's too close to Kamala Harris's name, so I'm out on Kevon Harris today, JTHayes.
We just tweet at the VP incessantly and hope that she responds to one of them.
Yes, that's the goal. But yeah, this is a game that we're gonna have to like, especially if someone sits, right? That's the key. If we get Mitchell Robinson sitting at 4-6, well, that's likely going to open up the door for either Julius Randle at the 5 or Hartenstein starting at 3.7K. And listen, if Hartenstein starts at 3.7K, or let's say Jericho Sims gets to start at 3K, it's a 4-game slate. We don't have a ton of amazing value plays. We're likely going to have to consider these options. Also going to call this out. If you pull up the flow chart at Run Pure Sports, we have 3 guys, Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, and Julius Randle, who are flow chart plays, and there's no team on the entire slate that has 3 guys, right? So you can make a case that one of these guys is going to have a pretty big game. I do think this is a spot to consider him. RJ Barrett has a pretty good price tag too. He's only 6K today, which is a really nice tag, especially if you happen to get Jalen Brunson sitting, right? That would be massive. Emmanuel Quickley at 5'8". He would be an incredible play if Jalen Brunson sat. So this is a very news-driven spot. The good news is we'll have an update in 23 minutes around 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And then I assume we'll have the news before the game even starts, right? We'll get starting lineups at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. So that's something that you'll be able to see in our updated piece of content. That's something that our guy, JSU Rab, he'll be grabbing the microphone and he'll be telling the people how to get the job done. So he'll be on the playback though. So be sure to check that out and we'll update all of our pieces of content as well. When it comes to the Magic side of the ball, I agree. They are a team that is likely going to be tapping out soon, but they are playing their guys, and there are some that we have to consider. I do think that Franz Wagner at 6.6K, he's in the conversation. I think you could make the case for Markelle Fultz and the upside that he has. I mean, he's a 7K player that has the ability to put up 50 DK points. I mean, he's shown it a ton, and he gets a matchup where gets to go up against Jalen Brunson. Let's say Jalen Brunson sits. Is anyone scared of Emmanuel Quickley on defense? I mean, if Jalen Brunson sits, and you get to go up against Emmanuel Quickley, this is a spot where Markelle Fultz could have a massive ceiling game at 7K. So I like him a lot in this spot. I think he's going to be a very low owned play that people won't gravitate towards. You can make the case for Cole Anthony at 5'6". Again, he'll have a pretty good matchup. So overall, this is a game that the news is going to kind of dictate how I handle the game. And if those guys don't play, I have some interest in like Randall and Barrett, but not as much interest, right? That'll kind of change some of the ways that I approach this slate. So I really need to get this news in order to kind of, make some decisions here.
Quick follow-up. Who would win in a one-on-one, you or Emmanuel Quickly?
Definitely Emmanuel Quickly. He's got my number. He gets enough buckets. I'll tell you this. He won't foul me as much as Snyder fouled me. I'll tell you that. Emmanuel Quickly might at least let me walk through the paint a couple times, because Snyder, he doesn't let you get through there. He takes you out before you get a free layup.
So did you feel you got maybe unfairly bullied by Snyder? Was he trying to send a message with the physicality? What happened there?
I don't know. After the first point where I got hit with the Heisman about like 3 times in a row, right? I looked at Big T and I said, "Are we not going to call a foul here?" And he said, "Play on." So again, we play body no bows, so it's like basically playing a version of football basketball out there, and it's a grind, JT. I don't recommend signing up for that next year, but hey, maybe that'll give you a better advantage on the court.
All right. Our guy, Tyler, who we got to see last weekend, is in chat, and we thank him for being here. He says, if Mitch Robinson sits, Randall double-double, and Knicks win plus 215 seems solid. So Tyler throwing out a free bet in there for your consideration this evening. We move on. 7:30, a rematch from the other night. Cleveland at Brooklyn. Cleveland favored by 4. Implied total in this game is 219. We know that Ben Simmons is still out. Everybody else remains in. The prices have come down for a lot of the guys in this game. Evan Mobley's prices come down. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Mikal Bridges. On the other side, Sweet Travis, we will stick with you. What do you see here in Brooklyn and Cleveland?
Yes, by the way, our guy Kevin does not like my comment earlier about some political stuff, but Fallick, just go make some charts. I'm just going to say that. Get
so it wasn't even a political comment. It was that, look, you're a fan. You've tweeted at her. You're hoping for a response. I mean, my buddy Kevin, there's no need to complain about everything. We're big fans. We're politics agnostic here at Run Pure Sports.
Isn't there like also a Jewish holiday coming up that he needs to celebrate? I mean, come on, Kevin.
Well, we don't want to talk about that because he's let's just say he's not a practicing member of the tribe, and that's his business. It's not mine.
All right, well, let's keep this thing moving on. We talked enough religion and politics for one Run Pure Sports episode, but let's go to Cleveland and Brooklyn. Obviously, a spot that you can't completely ignore. It's a 4-game slate, right? There's going to be some spots that are better than others. This is definitely not a spot that you're loading up on, but it's a spot where there's some really nice price tags that we can't totally ignore, right? I think it's one of those spots where you can make a case for the price-sensitive plays, right? Like, we were just paying $8K for Mikal Bridges, and now he's $7.4K. Evan Mobley at 7.3 against a Brooklyn matchup that could be pretty good. We just saw Nick Claxton. We just saw him have a pretty good game against Cleveland, right? Yeah, only played 28 minutes, but he had 30 DK points, and he had a lot of that in the first half. I don't know what happened in the second half, but I know he was absolutely crushing against them at 6'8". You consider him. Jared Allen at 6.3K. That's one really good option. That seems like a very price-sensitive play that you just need to like take the chance on, right? It's just too cheap of a tag at 6'3". The upside in this matchup is too good. I really like Jared Allen as a center option, and this will be a common theme today. Is the center position has a lot of really good plays. It seems like overall it is a solid double center night. This might be a spot where I just get a little bit different. Not saying I won't play centers, but I might try and not play the chalk center combination that everyone else is playing because it can lead to a similar path and construction at times. But really like Jared Allen, think he's a good play. Think you can make a case for Donovan Mitchell. I don't think Donovan Mitchell is a bad option at all as a spend, but I think there's other spends that I'd rather get to. But 8.4K, again, that's a cheap price tag for Donovan Mitchell. Same with Darius Garland. 7.2 is a cheap price tag. It just depends how you feel about him versus some of the other plays in that range. So overall, this feels like a game that, yeah, there's not a lot of value that's opened up based on injuries, but it does feel like most of the plays in this game are about $400 or $500 too cheap, and that makes us have some type of interest. If I had to rank them, my favorite play on the Cleveland side is probably Jared Allen if I had to pick. But again, center is a bit of a loaded position. And then on the Brooklyn side, if I had to pick one guy that I would play on that side of the ball, it would probably be Mikal Bridges. But again, based on some of these other guards on this slate, I don't know how much I'll actually get to him here.
He definitely will be lower owned. And you mentioned the price drop. Our guy Bobby is in chat. It's too bad that Bobby doesn't have a code like JTHayes 15 that you can use to get your first month for 15% off. But them's the breaks. Big T, Brooklyn facing Cleveland. What do you see here? And then before you even get to the Brooklyn and Cleveland game, maybe the most important thing right now, we've got almost 500 watching, 466. I think some of those people are Farmer Wants a Wife girls. So thank you, girls, for tuning in. And 193 likes here. What number do the people need to get to for the plays of the day? Because I know it's nowhere near 193.
Yeah, they need to get to 300. But if they do, then we can give them a college winner too. Since we're back on the college streets tonight. I mean, we got Stevie and the boys, but we can give a winner out here on this show in the college streets because, let's face it, it's a 4-game NBA slate. We watched the college all weekend. We're back in the college streets tonight. At least I am.
All right. So 300, you get the plays of the day and a free college winner from our guy Big T. Excellent. Shoot for that number. You should be able to get it in the next 15 seconds because there's enough of you here. Cleveland at Brooklyn. Big T, what do you got?
Yeah, so you got two teams that need to hold their spots. I mean, Cleveland looks relatively solid in the 4. I mean, they're 4 games back of the 3, 4 games clear of the 5. So they look like the 4 seed unless something weird happens. But Brooklyn tied for the 6 seed right now. One game looks like they're 1 up in the loss column, 1 down in the win column. So they need to win tonight. Both these teams this time of year want to win. So I kind of like Brooklyn in this spot a little bit just to win the game. Cleveland has less incentive, and I just like it. So you look at the pricing, though, it is somewhat tough. Nico Claxton's look pretty decent, but it's a somewhat tough matchup here. Dinwiddie's 8,300, Bridges 7,400, but I just feel good about them running these guys a bunch to try to get this dub, stay out of the play-in game, all of that. So I actually like these guys a little bit. I can't pay 6,500 for Cam Johnson, Finney Smith, probably not. But these top guys that play all these minutes, Bridges, Claxton, Dinwiddie, I definitely think are in play. Look at the Cleveland side. I mean, you got 7,200 Darius Garland. You just have to pay attention to that. Even Mitchell at 8,400. The bigs, Mobley's the only one that seems fairly priced. The rest of these guys do feel like Mangone was talking, just a little too cheap. And with the game meaning something, we don't know what. I mean, the Clippers, which we'll get to in a minute, the only late game, 2.5 hours after, you have no idea what they're going to do with Paul George banged up. Like, they could sit Kawhi. You have no idea what they're going to do in that game. So, I don't know. There's a lot more incentive in this game than the rest of this slate. So I do have a decent amount of interest in this game. And I think you could really roll the dice if you wanted and stack this game up a little bit and maybe play some cheap guys in one of these other spots and just hope it breaks your way like the late game. I mean, you look at some of the cheap guys in that game. If the news was to break right, I mean, you could have some guys play good games tonight in that spot. So I don't hate that strategy on a little 4-gamer.
Yeah, and as we've talked about the last couple of seasons, these back-to-backs, which are fairly new in the NBA, you look at what happened the first game, and you can expect that something different is going to happen in the second game. Not necessarily the outcome, but the players who reach their ceiling potential, their ceiling volume. So it's interesting for some of these players that have seen a reduction in price. Travis, we got a question for you in the chat from Deacon to the Legend. He says, hey guys, quick question, new sub, where can I locate all of the articles on the website, like the floor chart? I think he means the flow chart, the heat map, the playbook, etc. Why don't you go ahead and give Deacon to the Legend a little walkthrough of the Run Pure Sports website?
Yeah, here's the first thing. I'll be nice and I'll just post the link to the flow chart in the chat. So there you go. That's there. The link has been posted. But all you do is you head to runpuresports.com and then you look at the links up top. You see NBA. There's a drop down. We have a showdown tab. So if you want the NBA showdown playbook, you then scroll over to the right. It's right there. And then we got playbook. Playbook gives you a full in-depth breakdown, game by game, some of the best plays, nice little breakdown on everything and some cores. Then we have the core play section. We got the cash chart, You get Big T's player pool. You get AP's heat map, Glock's FanDuel heat map. Then you get my single entry 3 max. The flow chart plays are down there, team matchup, player projections, and past NBA videos. So there's tons of different things here. Just use that drop down. If you want those college winners, right? Big T said, hey, college winners, they're right there. College basketball, you go to that. And listen, if you are a League of Legends expert like our guy, JTHayes, you go to the More Sports tag, you go to esports, and then you go to the LOL playbook and core plays, and you get JT's League of Legends cores.
Yeah, you're never going to get a JT League of Legends core, but our guy,
Don't
Nice
say
Kevin,
never.
Our guy, Nice Kevin, does a great job on that. He can also allegedly kick a 58-yard field goal. So we're still waiting for that to happen. But while we wait,
you might be waiting a minute for that one.
While we wait for that to happen, we will go ahead and move on to the next game, as we've got Charlotte at New Orleans. Fairly big game for New Orleans here. Only news here is Nick Richards has signed a contract. He will be playing. Mark Williams is out. He remains out. New Orleans favored by 9 and a 225 implied total. Travis, the people are still looking for the link, but what do you see here, New Orleans and Charlotte?
I definitely posted the link in the chat. Maybe it got bounced. I don't know. I could post it one more time, but who knows? It could be a weird.
Post the link to a premium piece of content in the YouTube channel, but go ahead and give it a shot again.
I don't know. I posted it again, so there it is. Also, our guy Bobby has a money article, so check that out. It's always a good article here on the site, and use the code JTHayes15 to be able to check out Bobby's article for sure. But yeah, this is definitely a game that we have to consider, right? It's definitely going to be one that we are going to be looking at strongly today. We'll start with Nick Richards. And again, the common theme today is center position, right? The center position is loaded up with options. You're going to see Valanciunas and Nick Richards as two of the most popular centers today. Now, this is the real tough spot. So Valanciunas is coming off of 3 great games, 34 minutes, 33 minutes, and 28 minutes. Those games were against Houston, and San Antonio, where he had 44.75 or more DK points in every single game. What does he get now? He gets the stone matchup against Charlotte, and they have Nick Richards on the other side, where you don't expect it to go small ball as much, which is kind of nice. So I do think it's a good spot for Valanciunas, but man, Valanciunas chalk is sometimes a scary guy to roster. So that's something to call out there. I do think Nick Richards is a pretty good play too, because I'm not scared of Valanciunas on the opposite side, right? He's not this defensive presence that we're worried about. So Nick Richards at 5K, who's seen a pretty healthy amount of minutes for the most part. 26 last game. He had 13 against the Philadelphia game, but that's no big deal. The other games, though, pretty solid amount of minutes. He saw opportunities in the 30s. And when he does get that 25 to 30 minutes, he definitely has an 8X type performance, or between 5 and 9X. It's a really good spot for a 5K Nick Richards. So I really like him here. He's going to be another good play here in this game that we got to get some exposure to. CJ McCollum will definitely be a pretty overlooked play that I don't want to completely ignore. That could be a contrarian guard that I think you can make a case for sure. Just depends how this Jalen Brunson news falls, because if that news falls that he's out, I'll definitely like a lot of quickly, and that might hurt some of my CJ McCollum shares. As we talked about the big men, we talked about how the Charlotte could get killed by bigs. Well, you know who's a pretty elite fantasy producer? Larry Nance Jr. Larry Nance Jr. is really cheap and could fall into a spot where if he played even just 20 minutes, could put up 30 plus DK points at his price. So I think Larry Nance Jr. is in the conversation as well. So definitely think he's in play. You can make the case for some of these other options on the Charlotte side of the ball. Dennis Smith Jr. at 5.1K. I know Tony's talked about him on some other shows. I still think he's in play here in this spot. Would not ignore him. Gordon Hayward is a really interesting one. Gordon Hayward falls into the bucket of players this year that you look at the price tag and you go, yeah, 6'3" in this role feels kind of cheap, but do I want to actually fire on that? I'm not sure. Also, PJ Washington, me and Big T talked about him the other day. It's when have you ever looked at a slate, JT, and you're like, oh, I lost the slate because PJ Washington broke it? I just don't think I'm that worried about PJ Washington breaking this slate, especially with these really good wing defenders on the Pelican side of the ball. So for me, it's really Nick Richards and Dennis Smith Jr. I think you can make a case that Gordon Hayward's fine, but you can make a case he's maybe not the best chalk option, kind of like some of these other plays. I think Kelly Oubre could be an interesting spend that I think has the ceiling to get 40 to 50 DK points, kind of like in that Markelle Fultz bucket, where at that price, he has the ability to have ceiling performances that could win you a slate. And on a short slate, it might be worth taking a stab at. And it's really on the Pelican side and Charlotte side, really talking about those centers. That's one of the biggest talking points. How do you handle Valanciunas and Nick Richards? Because they're going to be some of the most popular plays here on this slate.
Big T, the Hornets, of course, completely eliminated. We've seen the minutes still be there, but at some point that might change. We've seen Kai Jones getting the backup center run, of course. What do you see here, Charlotte and New Orleans?
Yeah, you got two disappointing teams. I know we talk about this every game, but it's important this time of year because you don't know when these teams are going to tap out. And they do. They have played these guys a bunch of minutes, it should be noted. And they're not – I mean, how long have they been out? They've been out of it for weeks. So I don't see them changing it yet, but maybe the last week of the year or something, they start giving some of these other guys some run and stuff. We just got to take note of it. And honestly, I wouldn't worry about it until you see like some weird guys starting or something. And then like we saw with OKC the end of last year and stuff. But for tonight, I mean, these prices are decent. Gordon Hayward, 5,700. A lot like Mangone was saying too. Like Rozier, I look at him and PJ Washington very similar. Like they always project decent, although PJ doesn't today project that good. But a lot of the days they're projecting good, which tempts everyone to play them, and they just never crush. I mean, when's the last time Rozier's broken a slate too? It feels like never. So for me, I don't really want to play those guys, but you can definitely go, like you guys were saying, Nick Richards. Man, who was the guy that I kept calling Kelly Oubre? That was Kai Jones, right?
That was Kai Jones, yeah.
Yeah, like I like his game, though. Towards the end of the year, he's a guy I think we can roll the dice on a little bit, and he's 3,500. So back to my last game where I was saying –
these are the type of slates, like you could make the case, like the slates where like a random Kai Jones could pop up aren't the 10 gamers, right? It's more the 4 gamers.
4 gamers.
Value. So like it's an interesting point to bring up. Obviously, if Jalen Brunson gets ruled out, like all these other values are just going to be better plays. And these guys we're even mentioning aren't as exciting, but it is worth calling out that taking a stab on this, like, you know, slate and even like 2-game night slates, right? Sometimes you get like the 2-game night slate. People won't want to experiment with these 3.5K guys because projections aren't ready for it. This is where you can make the argument where watching the games and making adjustments and trying to get ahead of the curve is worth it long-term.
Yep. It goes a long way too, because these short slates, just say the value doesn't pop up and we don't get Knicks news. And obviously that's the first game, so we'll know right away if the clear value opens up. But just say there's a slate where there's not any value out there. I see no issue rolling the dice like Mangone said, because when you're right, you're very right, and you could ship the slate. Whereas on a 10-game slate, just because you're right on Kai Jones and he gets you 23 doesn't mean you're going to ship. Tonight, though, man, if you hit right on one of these cheap guys, it could go a long, long way. And he's been good at times in the last couple of weeks too. So I like him at 3,500. I think he's a very good play. Nick Richards, good play. Gordon Hayward's been nice. His price tag's fair. Oubre continues to chuck. I think you can go to all those guys. The New Orleans side, I despise these slates where Brandon Ingram projects as one of the best plays, but the flip side to that is it's a 4-game slate where I think he'll end up pretty – well, it all depends on the Knicks because you're going to have to spend up somewhere. I just think Ingram will end up popular. But, man, he's going against Charlotte. There just isn't much out there. So his ownership just looks weird to me. I don't know why he's projected low owned. Something's got to be wrong. He's got to be high owned, right? What am I missing?
He's 9K on DraftKings. So right now you're choosing between – him, Randall, Kawhi, and
do you think he's going to be low?
I'll tell you right now what I see him at 9K. I mean, yeah, 11% thereabouts, which is low for a 4-gamer.
If he's going to be low owned, then I definitely like him at that price. And I haven't played him, and I don't honestly think he has a ton of upside. But there's not a ton of upside on this slate unless that Knicks news hits where you can pop some guys in there that do some – I don't like him as much as Kawhi. I'll be clear about that. But I mean, what happens when Kawhi gets rolled out? What happens when stuff happens on this short slate? I think Kawhi will play too, so I'm just using rhetorical stuff. But I don't know. I'm not usually a fan of Ingram, but if he's actually going to be low owned, like when you run the optimizer, like you said, he just doesn't hit that much. He looks like a good play to me, so I might actually flip the script and play him a bunch. Joe Val, I just don't like Joe Val that much. How many minutes has this dude been getting? Let me pull it up.
So to be fair, Tony, I understand why not, but like this is a matchup where he'll crush. But to be fair, ownership is going to be there. It's a very big decision point on the slate, and I do think he's a good play and could absolutely smash and ruin your day.
This is where game logs catch up to people, though. So the last 3 games, everyone's like, he's crushed. He played Houston twice and the Spurs. Like, those are 3 nut matches.
Now we get Charlotte. I'll just call that out. It is a good spot, but it just depends on.
He's going to bust. I'm calling my shot now. He's busting tonight at 7,100. He's freaking busting.
Is this a big T guaranteed? This guy.
And it's not that good. Not on this slate. I'm not guaranteeing it. I'm not putting the guarantee thing on the line. But I do think you won't see me play him on my main team. I'll say that. And
yeah,
I think to your next point, though, you laid out why I think Larry Nance falls in the same bucket as Kai Jones we just talked about. He's 3,600. He will be higher owned than Kai Jones. He's way, way more like chalky base than that. But, I mean, what happens when you play Kai and Larry Nance? I think those guys are good plays. Even like Najee Marshall could fall a little in that bucket at 3,500. I mean, Trey Murphy, I never thought I'd see the day where he was 6,200, but he's been good too. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit of a reversal here. I never like Ingram. I like him today. I'm not playing Joe Val. Larry Nance, I like. I think we can get sneaky in this game.
Of course, an enormous game here for the Pelicans, who sit right now a half game out of the play-in and 2 games out of the 6th spot in the West. So my thought process here, I think there's been some injuries. Bobby Hare was talking about how Larry Nance has said he's playing through an injury. And so I think that's why you're seeing the Valanciunas big minutes. But if they get up big in this game, it's going to be hard for him to pay that 7,100 tag off. So have to see what happens here. It is a 9-point spread here with the Pelicans favored. Go ahead and hit that like button. We are not where we need to be to get you the plays of the day and get you that free college basketball winner. And guess what? We got just one more game to get there. An enormous game for both teams. Oklahoma City can get as high as the 4th seed, believe it or not, in the West. Not tonight, but if they play and come close to winning out throughout the rest of the season. Of course, the Clippers dealt the blow with the Paul George injury. They have to win to stay afloat, to keep themselves eligible for the play-in. The news tonight, Brandon Boston and Norman Powell join Paul George out. Jared Butler is in, as well as everyone else for Oklahoma City. The Clippers, Big T, will stay with you. The Clippers somehow favored by 4 in this game, down Paul George, coming off the loss to this same team the other night, 231.5 total. What do you see here, Oklahoma City at the Clippers?
Yeah, so what have they said about Paul George anyways? How long's the injury looking or whatever?
They've said that they expect him to miss the rest of the season, potentially be available for the playoffs. They're going to reevaluate him, I think, in a few days.
So, I mean, the West is so cluttered, like people have been talking about. I mean, you literally have the Suns in the 4 seed at 10.5 back of first, which just as like a aiming point, all the way back to New Orleans, 13.5, and they're in the 12 seed. So, I mean, you're talking literally 3 games separating the 4 and the 12 seed. So, these games are massive for every team outside of those. So, a big game for the Clippers, which is why I don't see them sitting Kawhi. You never know with the Clippers. They could literally do anything. But I think they just roll out their big minutes with Kawhi, which makes him just a lock for me. It is a little risky because you got no backup if he's out. But I don't see how you don't play him on this slate. I mean, he's going to play a ton of minutes. Unless something crazy happens, I just don't see it. The rest of the Clippers, though, I mean, you can play Westbrook now with Paul George out, but he's 8K against against a team that should be able to defend him decent. You can play Westbrook, though. Those are the only two that I have any interest in that way. And then OKC, I'm just not paying almost $8K for Giddey. You could go 5,400 Dort, but with it being the last game, I don't really see it. SGA 9,600. I'm not playing him over some of those other guys we talked about. So for me, it's probably just play Kawhi, not really pay attention to much. If somehow Kawhi sits, you can pivot to SGA or one of these other guys. It gives you a little protection. Just make sure he's in your utility or somewhere down there. Pivot to someone. But I don't love this game. The one thing that I would do is if I was really getting creative and wanted to stack some of the early stuff, I mean, you could find some cheap guys in this game and just hope the news breaks right. But, man, OKC's got a lot of guys. I mean, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I mean, they got 13, 14 guys that could play minutes at times. So I don't see it. I'm going to make my life easy. Like I'm saying, I'm going to be watching the college tonight, focused on that. I'm just going to play Kawhi, and I hope he plays. I don't love that much else in this game anyways. If he somehow doesn't, I'll pivot to the next best guy I can is honestly my plan with this one.
Play Kawhi and see where the chips fall. Sweet Travis, Big T says he's not paying $7,700, nearly $8K for Josh Giddey. But to your point earlier about Mikal Bridges, his price was up in the mid-8s. It was up in the high 8s. Now he's down to 77. Maybe a little bit of a rebound game here against the Clippers, who are going to be maybe a little bit worse defensively because of the Paul George injury. Remember who the guys that they're going to have to trot out are. They happen to be guys that King of Smack somehow wants to play. Eric Gordon, Nick Batum, someone was talking about. These are guys that don't really concern me in terms of defensive threats. What do you like here, Clippers and the Thunder?
Yeah, they're not that safe for sure, some of those guys that you talked about. And one reason why Valanciunas is going to gain ownership today and be a good play, we do not have studs to spend up on today, right? Like one reason you don't see people maybe trying to create their own values and play someone like a Kai Jones. I know he won't be someone that pops, but my point being is there are no studs to go up and get, right? Like there just aren't. Like Kawhi is a good play. Not everyone's got him, but he's going to be probably one of the most popular guys here on this slate. And a lot of people are going balanced and more of a mid-tier-ish kind of route. That's why they're kind of playing that mid-range center build and then some of these other options. So Kawhi's a good play. I'm going to probably play Kawhi. You could make an argument to either put Kawhi in the utility spot or have a forward and then another utility option to be able to make a pivot to later on to make a 2v2 pivot if something went wrong. But I'm not totally planning for that. Overall, I think Kawhi plays. I think they're going to need him. I think they are kind of pushing here where they're going to play him for the most part. So I don't think they do anything funky. But again, it's the Clippers. You really do just never know here what's going to happen. So I think overall, one thing to call out is maybe because this game can be a bit funky with the way OKC is and the Clippers, maybe it's just better to stay away from everyone except Kawhi, right? Maybe you don't kind of gamble too much with some of these other options, especially if Jalen Brunson got ruled out because we'd have such good play on the Knicks side. For instance, our guy JSU, you know what he did yesterday? He saw the Raptors news and stacked up on the Raptors. If I see Mitchell Robinson sitting quickly, and I know it's going to be chalky to some degree, but I might overstack the Knicks and load the boat on them against a terrible Magic team and not mess around with some of these other scenarios. So that's something to think about. Westbrook definitely could emerge and have a pretty good game. It's a little bit of a revenge spot for him. SGA could be a contrarian spend. But again, what values do you love? It does feel like more of a night to just grab one stud like a Kawhi and then go a bit balanced with the rest of your construction. Or you could even avoid him and go balanced. You grab a Brandon Ingram, who we talked about, who could be a little bit more contrarian as a small forward because everyone is spending up for Kawhi. So overall, this is not a game that I'm as excited for. And who knows? It might be a night where I'm, Mangone 777 out in front and just telling everyone else to catch me because I just don't know if I'm dying to play this game. If I play anyone, it's Kawhi number one for sure. And then the other plays are they're tough clicks. They're not easy to go to, especially if we get news to fall our way. Again, the Jalen Brunson news is going to dictate how I handle a lot of this slate, even more so than the Mitchell Robinson news that we'll get. It's not as exciting if he gets ruled out. Could it change my opinion on things? Hartenstein would become a better play, but sometimes it's not good for him to start because, again, they only play with one basketball and he kind of is better in that role when he's able to handle it. That Jalen Brunson news, if he gets ruled out, that is going to change a lot of how I handle things. And I'm going to really get heavy off of this late game too, if that news hits right, and just kind of get out in front of everyone else and tell them to catch up to me. But again, Kawhi's the only guy I really like in this game for the most part.
I think Julius Randle definitely becomes a slightly better play. I think he's already a fine play on this slate if Robinson, especially if Robinson and Brunson get ruled out. Travis, I'm going to follow your lead here because we're at 274. We're not quite at 300. And I'm going to bring up a topic just to go a little bit deeper on this last game, to give the people a chance to see if they can get to 300 on this Thirsty Thursday. Get the plays, get the free college winner. Go ahead, smash the like button, subscribe, all those things. There are people in chat, and we've seen this happen. I can't even count on both hands how many times this has happened this year. Russell Westbrook revenge. He doesn't seem particularly vengeful or motivated about anything. And that because Paul George is out to play Russ. Well, how many times, guys, did we see this happen on the Lakers where LeBron was out, where Anthony Davis was out? You have to play Russell Westbrook. His price now $7,900. More busts, certainly, than successes for Russell Westbrook in these types of situations. And oh, by the way, the other night, yes, Paul George played revenge. I mean, he played 26 minutes the other night. What do you see here realistically with Russ, considering he's all the way up at 7,900 and we may have some very good guard value?
Well, in order to actually smash in a revenge spot, JT, you have to have some kind of talent, right? And I mean, that's just Westbrook's problem, right? It's like, Cedone wanted to get his, he wanted to get his vengefulness out on Big T, and, he didn't show up, right? I mean, it's just, that's how it goes sometimes. You can't just talk and talk. And our guy, Russell Westbrook, I see him coming in with ownership. And for me, again, that scares me a little bit. I see myself playing Kawhi over Westbrook, I think, overall. And also, if you look at that guard range, it's a good conversation to have. Okay. So let's sort by salary here. We have Russell Westbrook, who I think is a solid play, but there's other plays in that range that I think are intriguing that we should kind of call out, right? So actually, I'm on the FanDuel pricing, so let me switch over here. Westbrook is at 7.9K. You can make a case for CJ McCollum. I think he could be a pretty good play at 8-1 at lesser ownership. You can make the case that Mikal Bridges for cheaper at 7.4. Darius Garland at 7.2. Really good plays. Markelle Fultz, I talked about him. If Jalen Brunson sits, we're getting Emmanuel Quickly defense, right? Markelle Fultz could be an incredible play that people are going to overlook. So I just think at Westbrook's ownership, right? Kind of like what Tony talked about. Center has a very loaded position. You can make the case for a Valanciunas fade. I think you can make the case for a Westbrook fade in this spot because of how good the other guards are around that range and for lesser ownership. So I'm not as excited about Russell Westbrook. I love to slander Russell Westbrook. You can catch me slandering Russell Westbrook on the rundown tomorrow at 2 p.m. with Spread Astaire and Tyler. We'll be breaking down tomorrow's slate. So I'll talk trash about Russell Westbrook and his terrible performance tomorrow.
9 more likes to get to 300. Big T, any thoughts on Russell Westbrook and the things we were just discussing?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can go to him. It's just tougher in the late game, too. The price is pretty fair. Honestly, the only way I would want to play him is if I was going heavy on the late game, which there is some reward to doing that because it's the only late game. It's a 4-game slate. It's all game theory for the most part, where you can get creative with it. I don't think it's the worst thing ever. Like, leave 5 spots for the late game or something and just see what happens. See how the early games go. These guys could definitely get there in this late game. So I wouldn't play Westbrook on a normal build, but if you're getting creative, you can definitely go to it.
All right. If you're getting creative, you can go with Russell Westbrook. We need just one more like and we got it. All right. We are on to the plays of the day. Everybody knows where we start. It is not the Sweet Travis play of the day anymore. It is still the ping pong play of the day. Poor Cedome still trying to resurrect himself from his big no-show over the weekend at the Run Pure Sports event. And there I am, bouncing back and forth across the ping pong table. Sweet Travis, who is the ping pong play of the day?
Yeah, ping pong play of the day. It's gonna be pretty simple. And I know it's gonna hurt if Brunson does play, but I'm hoping Brunson just sits down, lets Emmanuel Quickly play. They are both game time decisions, so we'll see what happens. But I think regardless, even if Brunson played, This is a pretty good spot for a guy like Markelle Fultz to have a ceiling game at 7K. And again, not a comfortable click. You're going to get him around probably 15 to 10% owned, but on a 4-game slate, this is a guy that can definitely get the job done. And I really do think this Knicks team, they're a team that we've targeted on the defensive side of the ball a ton. And Markelle Fultz could have an explosion spot. So give me Markelle Fultz at 7K as my play of the day.
Markelle Fultz at low ownership, the ping pong play of the day. It's time to hop over to France, check out a tasty baguette. And it's tough because ownership is concentrated. There's not a lot of value. And as you guys have both said throughout this show, you kind of, at this point at least, now that we just got some news that Robinson and Brunson are game time decisions, of course, because that's what the NBA is in 2023. So for right now, we have to make our own value. And I'm going to go to a guy that's been leading this team's second unit. He's been the offensive force on the second unit. Prices come down. There are no defenders on Brooklyn's second unit. Caris LeVert at 5,200 is the Eiffel Tower play of the day. He has a shorter trip over to France from Newark. Big T, it's time. What everybody's been waiting for, not just one, but two. Run Pure workbench play of the night. We've got the workbench play and then your free college winner for the people who barely crept over the finish line to get us there.
I like your guys' two plays too. I always like it when you guys get a little creative with guys I wasn't expecting and low-owned guys. Freaking love it. But I can't even believe I'm going with this dude. But Brandon Ingram, 9K. I just still can't believe he's going to be low-owned with the way this slate sets up. And I can play him with Kawhi too. I mean, either way I can play him with and get creative with some of the guys we talked about. And he just looks like the best play to me on this slate. Can't believe it. And it's a slate that I don't think I need upside too, which helps. There's a lot of May plays in there that are popping. So I'm okay with him getting me 50 tonight. I don't need 60 like I would normally need from 9K. Just give me that 50, 52 piece. Happy with that. Also, I wanted to bring up too, these guys on the playback, our boy Johnny last night, what do we call him? LG, the little guy.
LG.
He is giving away a 555 ticket on playback. So not only is it free to go on there, listen to these guys talk of the 4-game slate, I'm sure they'll have the beginning of the college game on there too before these NBA games start. But they're going to give away a 555 ticket. You got to be a member. They're going to give it away in the live show chat on our Discord. But a $555 ticket, that's the type of stuff we do and the little guy does, JSU. Ships last night, gives back to the community. It's one of the things we definitely do at Run Pure that I love. And gives people an opportunity. Someone's going to win that normally couldn't play that 555. Whether it's tonight, I don't know if it's sold out tonight or not, but tonight or tomorrow, get a shot at one of those big boy entries. So definitely check out that playback with AP, LG. Holden will be on there, I think. I don't know if you want to see Holden, but he'll be on there with them. Still mourning his Kansas Jayhawks losing last weekend. And let's get to the winners, though. So I could give one game. I've been crushing in the playoffs. Those of you that have the bets package have seen that. Up, I think, 10 units or something. It's not like these other sites where you're betting 50 units on a game. It's all 1 units and up 10 units on the playoffs. Rather than give one tonight, I'm going to give a little parlay just so the free people can put, what 10, 20 bucks on it, win 100 or something back. I got a 4-team parlay. I bet a bunch of dogs during the tournament. Tonight, I'm actually going to give a 4-team favorite money line parlay. All 4 favorites. Michigan State, UConn, Tennessee, and UCLA. All on the money line. No spreads. Just win. Just win, baby. And the odds on DraftKings are plus 715. So you get over 7-1 odds. Throw 10 bucks on it, 20 bucks on it. Root on some hoops tonight. We're going to go to the winner's circle.
There you go. There is the free college play of the day. Markelle Fultz, Caris LeVert, and Brandon Ingram. The various plays of the day for Sweet Travis, for Big T. I'm JTHayes. See you guys tomorrow.